I felt his gaze on me, like waves of unwanted heat. I leaned forward too much, and he got a full view of my cleavage. I usually wore a button-down blouse and buttoned it almost all the way to the top. But today, I wore a V-neck under my jacket, and when the air conditioning went out in the July heat, I was very hot. I looked up at his face and saw the same look that I had seen on the faces of many men most of my life. "Can I help you with something?" I asked in the coldest tone I could muster. "I was just enjoying the view," he grinned, "and I dreamed of seeing more." My blood began to boil. I immediately got up and went to another office. The office I chose was occupied by the head of our small firm, Bradley Martin. "Brad, I want to file a sexual harassment complaint against this guy," I said, pointing toward the office. "He came to my table and talked about me like I was a piece of meat." Brad looked at me through his glasses. His gaze, although he had a lot of experience, also slid to my chest. "Karen, I'll talk to him about it," he said. "He's young, but he's a good lawyer. We have a lot of cases ahead where we might need him, so I won't fire him this time. But if it happens again, he's fired." I nodded and turned to leave his office. "Karen, what's really wrong?" he asked. "What do you mean?" I asked, turning to him. "Come on, Karen, you put guys like that in their place 10 years ago, when he was in school. Remember all those conversations you had with me before?" He stopped suddenly, and then I began to speak, just to fill the silence before it became awkward as we each retreated into our own memories. Neither of us wanted to go back there. "I guess I'm just nervous about the weekend," I said quickly. "But why?" he asked. There was genuine concern written on his face. "Karen, this is your chance. In the last 3 years, how many times have you sat here complaining about everything you would do if only the heavens parted to give you another chance? You conned, manipulated, planned, dreamed, and patiently, I've been waiting for exactly what you've got this weekend. This is your chance, Karen. Don't let nervousness ruin it for you. There's no one on this planet who knows this man better than you. Go for it." "Maybe it's not time yet," I said. "No," he said. "Statistically, marriages where the couple reunites within 4 years of divorce have the best chance of success. Look at Joyce and me." "Exactly," I said. "Are you back home yet?" "Not yet," he said. "Have you ever gone on a date?" I asked. "Not yet, but we'll go," he smiled. "Brad, she's using you. Every time she needs or wants something, she waves her little finger and you run. You're more like her minion than her husband," I said. "But sooner or later she will overcome her anger and I will return there. We had sex last week," he said. I was laughing. "She needed help and you were right there at the first call, right?" "Maybe," he said. "But at least I'm back in her life. I returned to my children's lives, and sooner or later I will return to her heart. This is much more than I deserve. I got mine, Karen. Go get yours." "But I'm so nervous," I said. "About what?" he laughed. "The guy loved you so much that he asked you to spend the rest of your life with him. Just go out and remind him of what he loves. Of course we screwed up, but time has passed. Let him know that it affected you and you won't do it again." "It's not that simple," I said. "My daughter Debbie hinted that her father was with someone." "That's a good sign," he said. "Do you remember some of the women I dated before I got off my ass and started trying to get my family back? The fact that he is dating only proves that he is single. He's ready for a relationship again. So you go out there and show him how much better you are for him. Good weekend. Come back here, happy." I left the office, and Brad called the idiot who was trying to harass me into his office. I was driving home and thinking about the weekend. I needed to have the right outfits so that every time Danny saw me, he would remember everything he loved about me. I looked at myself in the mirror and shook my head. I used to fall in love, but now I'm just falling apart. Everything Danny loved about me was gone. I was approaching 50, my body was weakening, and my face could no longer launch a single leaky boat, let alone 1,000 ships. My body has always been unusual. I was designed in such a way that men went crazy and women were jealous. I had long, slender legs that drove men crazy. I had a firm, tiny ass that looked good in anything. I didn't have an extra ounce of fat on me, except My breasts, they were too big. They flew out of my tiny chest, as if trying to escape from my body. The envious girls in the class called me names. The guys fought over me. But what drove them crazy was that I was a good girl. My parents raised me right. The most beautiful girls will never have to leave the house. I managed to keep the boys at a distance until I met Danny. All my life I planned to remain a virgin until I got married. It's a good thing I met Danny when we were in college, because from the moment he first touched me, I was ready to give him anything he wanted. Nothing mattered, not consequences, not anyone's opinion, as long as I had him. But strangely enough, Danny waited. He treated me like a gem. I remember the first time Danny met my father. I went home for a few days to be with my family and went back to school early because Danny and I had a date. My mother was one of those women who was paranoid about her dishes. I had my doubts about taking any of her bowls or pans to school, but she insisted. So, 2 days after I returned to school, she sent my father to get a pie pan. My dad is a big guy, and he's one hell of a jokester. He saw me leaving the apartment with Danny, whom he had never met but had heard all about. He grabbed my hand, and Danny stepped between us. "Get out of the way, boy! This doesn't concern you!" my father shouted angrily. "If it concerns Karen, then it does," Danny said quietly. My father was clearly impressed because he was almost twice Danny's size, but Danny wasn't about to back down. My father pulled out a huge gun and aimed it at Danny. "She has something of mine and she doesn't want to give it away," my father said. "So I'm going to get back at her. We have a kind of history together." Danny's eyes grew huge. "What story?" he asked. "Don't be a fool," my father said. "Let's just say she gave me more than my share of goodnight kisses, if you know what I mean. I'm not even sure I can count how many times she hugged me and threw herself at me." My father tortured Danny. "Wait a minute," my father laughed. "You haven't slept with her yet, have you?" He started laughing. "Why not?" he asked. "Karen wants to wait until she gets married for this," Danny said. "And I care enough about her to not force her to do anything she's not ready for." My dad just laughed, but I could tell he was really impressed with Danny. "Listen, kid, this is not your fight. Just go," my father said. "It's not worth getting shot at." He raised the gun as if he was going to shoot me. Danny spread his arms and covered me. My father just laughed. "So you'll take a bullet for her? For a girl you don't even have?" Danny simply bit his lip and nodded his head. I love her," he said. "Okay, I'll just shoot you both," the father said. He pulled the trigger, and all we heard was a loud bang. About a second after the shot, Danny realized he could still move and lunged at my father. My father reached out and placed his hand on Danny's forehead, laughing his head off as Danny tried to swing at him again and again. "Danny, calm down. It was just a joke," he laughed. Danny looked at him in confusion. "How do you know my name?" he asked. You ruined Christmas for me," my father said. "The whole time she was at home, she constantly talked about you. If she wasn't talking about you, she was texting you or talking on the phone. God, it was almost as if you were there with us. I came here to take her mother's pie plate. So when I saw you two, I just had to give your chain a little tug." "But you shot at me?" said Danny. "It's just a gun with a big cap," my father said. "I use it to start my track team's races at home. That scared the crap out of you, didn't it?" After that, Danny could do no wrong in my father's eyes. He and my mom were convinced that Danny and I would get married. And it happened. Shortly after graduation, Danny and I began a fabulous life together. If everything had gone the way it was supposed to, we would still be together. When the memories faded, I was still standing in front of the mirror. I lifted my heavy breasts and noticed that when I did this, the wrinkles and stretch marks disappeared. As soon as I let them go, instead of sticking out from my ribcage like when I was younger, they settled down onto my stomach. They also weren't nearly as full as before. They reminded me of balloons that had lost some of their air volume. My stomach has changed too. I never had a pronounced six-pack, but he was always slim and toned. Now I have a small tummy. But in fact, he appeared before the divorce. Danny, to my horror, even liked him. I remember how we went to bed with a spoon. He was behind me, stroking this round belly. I was no longer that woman. My legs have always been thin, but now they are also wrinkled. I turned my back to the mirror and looked over my shoulder at my butt. She had never been particularly large, but now she was simply invisible. Today's men seem to prefer women with larger butts. I didn't think it would be a problem for Danny because he could never keep his hands off me. While we were married, I knew his weak points, even when he was angry with me. If I did something that really pissed him off, like volunteering to help with one of my friend's renovations on his day off, I could always get him to forgive me. Many of my friends have opinions about the value of underwear, but who needs them? My best underwear was a t-shirt. I would just take off my bra, put on a t-shirt, and Danny would be speechless. I remembered this and smiled while choosing clothes for the weekend. I packed a t-shirt, presumably for sleeping, but I also packed other things. I took 3 swimsuits. One was solid, which covered everything. You could actually swim in it. I also packed another one-piece swimsuit that showed off my breasts. Swimming or doing anything active in it would be very risky because my breasts could fall out. The third swimsuit was one that only a slut would wear. Hopefully, I'll only wear it for Danny. But it was an all-out effort for me, so nothing was out of the question. I would rather have my daughter and son-in-law question my sense of propriety than risk losing the chance to get my husband back. Brad was right about some of the things he told me. But I need to be careful. He was right about some of the women he dated being terrible. Some of them were desperate divorcees. Others were simply gold seekers. But in each case, Brad realized over time that there was something missing in each relationship. At some point, however, Brad pulled himself together and realized that he needed to try to get his ex-wife back. And Joyce has been making him pay for it ever since. I was sure she would eventually take him back. There were several signs pointing to this. First of all, she still hated me. I was sure she didn't even know Brad and I were working together again. Another moment was when I heard her voice, since Brad told me not to answer the phone if I saw one of her numbers on the display. This was when she left him a message. In this message, she said, "This is Joyce Martin. Please ask my husband to call me as soon as he is free." They were divorced longer than Danny and I because I dragged out our divorce and kept it out of court for at least 8 months longer than Brad. But she still called him her husband. And she called him her husband in public and in conversations with other people. I think that despite everything she has allowed herself to do with Brad now, she will take him back, because she cannot imagine life with someone else. She'll just make him pay for what he did until she decides he's paid enough. I wish Danny would make me pay. I wish he would keep me on a short leash, call me at any time of the day to do something for him, like Joyce did. I would love the chance to go over to his house in the middle of the night to cook dinner or have sex with him. But maybe Danny loved me more than Joyce loved Brad. I say this because Joyce and Brad never lost touch. At first they quarreled and argued, then they calmed down, but still exchanged insults while talking about children. This slowly escalated into Brad telling Joyce how much he missed her and Joyce laughing at him. And then she started blaming him for not being together. And now she gave him orders and called him out on dates. I was sure that the dates would become more frequent, and then he would start staying over at her place. After that, he will move back into the house at some point, and the divorce will be canceled. Knowing Joyce, she would probably insist that they get married again. Danny, on the other hand, quietly disappeared. I was looking forward to trying to win him back during the divorce. I wanted one of those meetings that Brad and Joyce had, where I could pour my heart out to him like Brad did. But this did not happen. Danny let his lawyer decide everything. I never spoke to him. Since our daughter was already an adult, we didn't have any conversations about her. In fact, I truly believe that Debbie and her husband sided with Danny against me. I kept asking her about her father when we talked. At first, she was quite open with information. "Mom, he's really sick," she told me. She did not hide her feelings about this. Even her tone of voice was full of reproach. I cried when she told me that he never leaves the house except to go to work. It really scared me the following spring when she told me that her dad was still driving his Jeep because he didn't want to have to deal with moving his Mustang out of the garage where it had been sitting all winter. It made me realize what I had done to him. I destroyed his self-esteem. Men define themselves to some extent by their careers and their cars. In Danny's eyes, He wasn't worthy of driving his Mustang, so he just left it in the garage for a year or so. After a while, Debbie stopped telling me about her father. "You are no longer married," she told me. "He doesn't ask me about you, so I shouldn't violate his privacy by telling you about him. Mom, you missed your chance to be in his life when you did what you did." This shocked me greatly. Hearing from Debbie that Danny didn't ask about me really hurt me. I still regularly asked her about him every time we spoke, but she never answered me. Perhaps Debbie was smarter than I thought, because lately she had been sporadically sharing a nugget or two of vague information. "Yes, Mom, Dad bought a new Mustang," she told me. A few weeks later, she told me something even more encouraging. "Mom, I wish we could all get together sometimes. I'm so tired of my children only having to visit certain grandparents at a time. They don't know anything about what happened between you. It would make it easier to choose who should visit and when, if only we could all act like adults." Then I realized that there were holidays when she invited Danny, and others when I was invited. I also began to realize that Danny had an advantage over me, but it was probably fair, considering that I was the cause of the problem. But last week I got what I had been hoping for the entire 3 years we've been divorced. "Mom, do you want to spend the weekend at Daddy's lake house?" "I've always loved this place," I said immediately. "Do you think it won't bother him if we go there?" "Perhaps it will be better if you don't tell him that I'm going with you." Mom, he'll be there," she said. I dropped to my knees and started crying. "Mom, calm down. Selena and I thought it was time to get the whole family together," she said. I felt a sense of foreboding. "Selena who?" I asked. "Daddy Selena," she replied. "You'll like her." So I thought about all the terrible women Brad dated before he got his act together. This Selena was probably one of them. And, as Brad reminded me, it was a good sign that Danny was dating someone. And this weekend was an opportunity for me to show him what he was missing. I hoped Selena had her A-game ready because I was going to show Danny what he was missing. The next morning, my daughter and son-in-law picked me up in their SUV. I sat in the back between my 2 adorable grandchildren, Tony and Helen. The children, as usual, were restless and asked me all sorts of questions during the trip. As we got closer to the lake house, they became even more restless and started pointing out different places in the area. Apparently, they were here after my divorce. I knew this because the last time I was at the lake house with them, they were too young to walk on their own. But now, aged 8 and 9, they knew the area like the back of their hand. The lake house looked great. The landscape around the house has been changed. There is a new terrace behind the house with lots of comfortable furniture. There was a boat and a couple of jet skis at the pier. One of the biggest surprises was the flowers planted around the house. The terrace and jet skis were understandable. Danny could certainly have built a deck, but the furniture was so beautiful and so artfully arranged. And the flowers were beautiful. Danny couldn't tell the difference between a tulip and a rose, let alone arrange them. I have often thought about planting flowers around the house. A thought was born in the back of my mind. Did Danny make all these changes in anticipation of a chance to win me back? If so, he was wasting his money because all he had to do to get me back was just make a sign. Even as we pulled up to the house, my smile and anticipation grew. I could almost feel the love in the air. As soon as the car stopped, I heard 2 almost simultaneous clicks as the skanks next to me unbuckled their seatbelts and escaped from the car. They rushed to the front of the house, shouting, "Grandma!" as they ran. "I'm here!" I shouted after them. Children are funny. They probably expected that their old grandmother would be able to catch up with them. They probably forgot that their old grandmother will soon be 50, but I was so happy that I tried to run after them. No one could measure my surprise at what I saw as I rounded the corner to the front of the large house. My grandchildren, shouting, "Grandma!" rushed into the open arms of some blonde. My mind revolted at the thought that they could call anyone else that but me. Technically, I understood that my son-in-law, Greg, also had a mother. She could also be their grandmother. But I met Greg's mom before she died, and this woman was nothing like her. She didn't even look old enough to be called grandma. She had long, curly blonde hair. Her hair was wet, as if she had been swimming. She kissed both my grandchildren and pointed towards the terrace. I was shocked. I didn't know who this intruder was, but I was furious that she was trying to usurp my rank. I wasn't usually so rude, but my thoughts escaped my lips involuntarily. "What the hell?" I said loud enough to be heard. "What the hell?" Danny shouted, much louder than he intended, as my children and grandchildren ran around. Instantly, Selena was next to me, calming me down. At the same time, my daughter, Debbie, stood in front of her mother as if trying to prevent me from seeing her until I came to my senses. "It's okay, honey," Selena said soothingly. "No, it's not like that," I shouted. "What the hell is she doing at my house? Who the hell invited her?" Selena's beautiful face twisted and she grabbed me by the collar. "It's not just your house anymore, Danny. This is our house. And I invited her. Do you have any idea how much stress this puts on Debbie when you two can't even be civil? The poor girl has to diplomatically decide which of her parents to spend Christmas or Thanksgiving with, and the future is just as bad. She has 2 children, Danny. They are your first grandchildren. Do you want to miss half of their important moments because it's not our turn?" Everyone turned to look as Selena read me the riot act. My daughter Debbie nodded at every word Selena said, while my son-in-law tried to look away to spare me the embarrassment. "It's going to be awkward for all of us," Selena continued. "Poor Debbie is probably upset right now because she doesn't want her dad to be mad at her for her part in this." Greg was already blushing with embarrassment, although he had no idea what was going on. Karen doesn't know me and doesn't know that I even exist, so coming here and seeing me would probably be a shock to her. As for me, darling, I'm really afraid. You spent most of your life loving Karen. The only reason the 2 of us are together is because you broke up. How do I know you 2 won't get over your anger and... Because we won't," I said loud enough for her to hear. The tone of my voice clearly frightened her because she flinched away from me. This has never happened in all the time we have been together. I carefully took her hand and dragged her to the edge of the house. She turned to them. "Debbie, you know where everything is. Make yourself at home. Make yourself comfortable while your father and I talk. Greg, new Mustang in the garage. I'm sure Danny wants you to see him," she said before turning around. To me. "You're an idiot," I spat. I had never spoken to her in that tone, and it clearly hurt her. "Selena, I love you more than anything in the world. There is no way I can..." At such moments, words were not enough. I hugged her and kissed her. I wrapped my arms around her slender waist and pulled us even closer to each other. She melted against me, molding her body to my form as my hands moved down to her rounded hips and rested on her ass. She moaned and became almost boneless from my caress. Behind us, I heard my grandson Tony yell, "Hey guys, Grandma and Grandpa are kissing from the side of the house." "Honey, just deal with it," she said. "Just pretend she's not here. Do it for Debbie and your grandchildren. I just want everyone to be happy." "Whatever," I said. I was still angry that I was dragged into this. I watched as Selena walked back to the front of the house and the 4 children craved her attention. I took a few deep breaths to calm myself before leaving the house. As my anger subsided and my hands stopped shaking, I remembered the last time I saw Karen. This was a little over 3 years ago. I was lying in bed and she was clinging to me. We were warm and cozy, and as soon as I came to my senses, my mind turned into her. I was a healthy 45-year-old guy who had been in love with the same woman for over 25 years. My first thoughts upon waking up were, "I'm awake," and "Where is Karen?" Besides my consciousness, even my body was looking for her, my arms wrapped around her more protectively and with more love. To further complicate matters, I've been out of town on a business trip for the past 2 days, but even 2 days away from her has been torture. The night before, I arrived late and she was already asleep when I arrived. She moaned as I hugged her. "We've got a lot of time to catch up on, mister," she growled. That was the last meaningful thing either of us said as we became lost in the intensity of our fusion. Karen acted like I was gone forever, and not just for 2 days. Her screams and screams echoed throughout the house. Our daughter Debbie was away from home and had children of her own, so we didn't have to hold back. I loved Karen. To me, Her body was a work of art. Her thin legs and small butt didn't match her chest and upper body, but most guys couldn't take their eyes off her chest. But there was more to it than that. I loved her personality, her spirit, and everything. Karen had her moods and quirks like everyone else, but it only made me love her more. "Put the damn seat back," she screamed after I flushed in the adjoining bathroom. I decided to surprise her with a gift that I bought for her while I was on a business trip. I went downstairs and went to look for the suitcase in which I left her gift. Walking past the table in the hall where we usually left mail, I opened several envelopes and then rushed up the stairs. I forcefully opened our bedroom door. The door flew away from me so hard that it hit the wall. The spring door stop-broke and the door handle bit into the drywall. Karen shuddered and sat up in bed. Her eyes were wide open in surprise. "What's happened?" she began. "Who the hell is he?" I shouted. "Who's who?" she asked stupidly. "The one you had sex with," I shouted. "But I don't—" she began. She stopped without even finishing her sentence when she saw the expression on my face. I was angrier than I had ever been in my life. My blood was boiling. My heart was beating almost 3 times faster than usual. At that moment, I understood why so many men get heart attacks when they find out that their wives have cheated on them. I have never hit Karen or any other woman in my life, but at that moment, if she had told me one more lie, I'm not sure I could have stopped myself. For most of my life, I have always had contempt for men who hit women. But at that moment, I understood Mike Tyson's quote that the best punch he ever threw was against Robin Givens. I've heard that old wives' tale about how love can't be turned on and off on command. They are absolutely wrong. Because when my blood boiled, it burned every iota of love I felt for Karen. I think she then realized the danger she was in. But perhaps not. Perhaps she thought that what was happening between us was just one of those run-of-the-mill arguments that every couple goes through. But she looked into my eyes and saw 2 things. The first is the barely restrained, and I emphasize, barely restrained rage that burned in those eyes that had previously shown only love for her. And secondly, I knew. She realized that I already had proof of my accusation, so her protests and denials would only hurt her. So she did what all cheaters do. She started crying. She burst into tears with all her heart. She expressed her sadness and her regret. She looked at me and noticed that her entire demonstration had fallen on deaf ears. I remained completely indifferent. "Danny, it's not what you think," she sobbed. "It didn't mean anything, I swear," she said. "I think you slept with another man," I said. "And I think that means the end of our marriage and our family, not to mention our happiness and any chance of growing old together." Looks like I wasn't the only one in trouble because she fainted when I said that. I was still very angry and wanted answers, so I went to the bathroom and got a glass of water. I went back to the bedroom and sprayed it in her face to get her to come to her senses. "I'll ask you again," I said. "But you have to let me explain," she whined. She looked at my face and changed tactics. "You don't know him. He's one of the new lawyers on the job and—" I raised one eyebrow higher. "His name is Bradley Martin and he—" I just turned and walked away from her. She stood up and began to follow me, but I turned and growled at her. "Sit back on the bed, Karen," I shouted. "Don't get up, don't get dressed, don't even go to the bathroom. If you go anywhere or call anyone, we're done. I'm going to go out for a drive so I can think about it and decide what I should do next. In the meantime, you need to decide what you want and whether we have a future." When the door slowly opened, I was even more angry. I grabbed a bottle of Turtle Wax leather cleaner off the shelf and wiped down the front seats of my Mustang. The car, the 09 45th Anniversary GT, was my pride and joy. She was second only to my wife and daughter in my affections. But that morning, she moved up 1 notch on the list. Even after using almost a quarter of a bottle on the front seats, the car still felt defiled. Finally, I got in and drove away. I didn't know where I wanted to go when I got on the freeway. As I drove, I thought about my relationship with Karen. Part of what made me so angry was that she always warned me to keep my pants in place when I went on business trips. I haven't traveled much, but she reminded me of this every time I left. Karen and I had a long and wonderful life together. Many couples we've known since college either never got married or got married and then divorced. We were going to grow old together. We have been together for over 20 years. We raised a beautiful daughter together and had 2 young grandchildren. We were so close to having it that I could see 2 rocking chairs on the porch. Obviously, the whole loyalty story was one-sided in Karen's head. I had to be faithful and she could do whatever she wanted. If she thought we could fix it, like it was just an abrasion that could be covered with a Band-Aid, she was crazy. I pulled off the freeway and came back, pressing hard on the right pedal. Before I knew it, my speed was approaching and then exceeding 100 mph. I pulled off the freeway in front of a downtown office building. I waved to the guards and entered the building. I took the elevator to the 4th floor and entered a large office block. There were several desks with secretaries and assistants and paralegals working. Several of them smiled at me as I entered the office. I waved to the old gray-haired and bearded man in the corner office. He stood up to meet me. "Hi, John," I said. "Danny, you don't look too good," he said. "How can I help? Your wife worked late last night. She's not supposed to arrive until 11. Wait a minute. I got it. She said you'd be on a business trip until today. You stopped to see her on the way home, didn't you?" "Not really," I said. "I need 2 lawyers. He took a sip of coffee and then choked. "Did you say 2 lawyers?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Danny, I'll take over your case and—" he began. I shook my head. "John, you may not be one of them, but I appreciate the offer," I said. "Everything will become clear in about 15 minutes. He looked at me strangely, but didn't say anything. He pressed a button on his phone and spoke into it. "Lauren, can you come in here?" he said. A few moments later, a slender young woman entered the office. She was about 30 years old, and the resemblance was too close to be an accident. "Yes, she is my daughter Lauren," he said, "but trust me, she's the best lawyer on my team. Now, as for your second lawyer, I think, for my second lawyer, I already have a candidate. Bradley Martin is the one I need," I said. John's face showed surprise. I turned to his daughter. "How much should I give you for the deposit?" I asked. "Just give me $50 for lunch, and I'm all yours," she smiled. "Where do you have lunch?" I asked. "If you weren't married, believe me, I would show you," she said when I handed her the bill. "So you're officially my lawyer now, right?" I asked. She smiled and nodded her head. "Are you going to give my partner $50 too?" she asked, offering me another one of those dazzling smiles. "Which partner?" I asked. "Bradley," she said, pointing to a guy sitting at a table near the window. He was talking on the phone when she pointed at him. "You don't have a partner," I said. "Your first job is to get me bail." "On bail? You're not even in jail. What did you do?" she asked. "Nothing yet," I said, "but give me 5 minutes." I left the office and crossed the floor. I picked up the phone and hit Bradley on the head with it so hard that it cracked. He fell from his chair and stood up, stunned. "Damn, why did you do that?" was all he had time to say before my left punch hit him on the right cheek and knocked his head back. Immediately after that, my right cross broke his nose and knocked him down. He rose to his hands and knees. He looked at me, blood dripping from his mouth and cheeks. "Let me explain," he said. "That didn't mean—" "I'm tired of trying to explain," I said. I hit him in the ribs as hard as I could. I felt and heard a crunch, and he fell on his side, holding onto the impact site. Someone called security and they ran into the room. Before they could get to me, I hit him again. This time, I hit him in the groin. One piercing scream later and he passed out. I sat down on the table nearby and extended my hands to the guards. "Danny, why did you attack Brad?" asked one of the guards. "He slept with Karen. He ruined my life," I said. I held out my hands. "Call the police. Take me to jail. I already have a lawyer." "No, I don't want to apply," Brad groaned. "Just take me to the hospital, please." Brad was smart. He knew that I wanted to go to prison because if I was arrested, it would become known and questions would arise. I could state the reason for attacking him was because of his relationship with Karen. The attack could not have harmed me since I owned my own business. But having a connection with a coworker on his record could affect his reputation as a lawyer, and he could even be called before the ethics committee of his local bar association. 2 guards picked him up and carried him out of the office. John motioned for me to return to his office. "Danny, there were other ways to solve this problem," John said. "But probably not as satisfying, I suppose," Lauren said. "I should have done it myself. It probably would have made paying child support to that scoundrel less painful." "Are you divorced?" I asked. She nodded. "What did you do to Karen?" she asked. I looked at her in bewilderment. "I mean, she betrayed you, not him. You probably wanted to punch her in the face too, right?" she asked. "I don't think I'm capable of hitting a woman," I said. "Although, I thought about it. That's why I left her at home and came here." "Well, since you're not going to jail, I guess you don't need a lawyer anymore," she said. "I'll still need you for the divorce," I said. Her eyes widened. "Danny, maybe you should think about this first," she said. "Today I met you for the first time, but I've known Karen for quite a long time, and that woman loves you. You don't even know why she did it." "You know?" I asked. "I think so," she answered sharply. "This is what women go through. Karen is probably about 45 now, right? She's going through things that men will never understand. She's always been the woman that men wanted and women envied. She's always had these big breasts and long legs, right?" I nodded angrily. "Well, Danny, Karen has reached an age where things are changing for her, and not for the better. Her body is producing far fewer eggs, and very soon she won't have any left at all. She's losing the ability to perform a woman's greatest task. Soon she won't be able to have children. It doesn't matter to a man. Even an 80-year-old man can impregnate a woman. But this is not the best time in life for a woman. She begins to doubt herself and even whether men still think she is sexy." "This is nonsense," I said. "I tell her I love her every day and you have sex all the time. And you tell her she's the sexiest woman alive, right?" she asked. I nodded. "Danny, I'm sorry. You're probably a great husband, but these things don't mean much when they come from you. You have a responsibility to tell her these things and have sex with her. You're married. She needs to hear it from strangers. And being here doesn't help her. Every spring there's a new batch of young, beautiful interns with whom she has to compete for the attention of the men in the office. In such a vulnerable state, a little flattery can get her into a lot of trouble. That doesn't mean she's a bad person or that she doesn't love you. It just means she made a mistake, that's all." "Lauren, why did you get divorced?" I asked. "My husband was a jerk," she muttered. "We just couldn't find common ground. Well, Karen and I don't get along either. We made vows in front of our friends and family. We had a contract of sorts, and she chose to break it. That contract bound us together, and without it, we had no trust left in each other." "Friend, if you don't understand this, I can find another lawyer," I said. "Danny, I'm on your side," she said. "It's just that you're a good guy, and I don't want you to suffer. You already look like you've lost your best friend. As time goes on, you'll feel more and more lonely. There will be times when you might regret making a different decision. Divorce is going to be painful, Danny. Nobody wins in divorce. So if there's any chance that you might consider taking her back..." I shook my head. "Okay," she said, handing me a stack of papers to fill out. "I just wanted to make sure you know exactly what you want. This is a very emotional time for most people. You need to make these decisions with a clear head and without doubt. I still think you should wait a few days before making a decision, and maybe talk to her, but you're in charge here. I'm just taking your money." John remained silent during my conversation with his daughter. Then he spoke. "What about me, Danny?" he asked. "I'm guessing that when you said I couldn't be your lawyer, you were thinking about suing my firm, right?" This thought flashed through my head, I honestly admitted. "I think you're just trying to hit whatever you think has hurt you," he said. "Let's look at this from a practical point of view. For you to win anything in this case, you need to prove that we knew about the scam and did nothing to stop or prevent it. You need to prove that we violated or failed to comply with our anti-sex policy as stated in our employee handbook, or at least that we have not enforced it. Even if you prove it, most judges will see it as a case of two consenting adults acting in their own free time. The burden of proof is all. The onus will be on you. Even if you can prove any of this, the chances of getting a large monetary settlement are very slim. That is, unless you rely on one of those internet divorce stories where the wronged husband gets millions of dollars and cruises to Costa Rica. So what do you really want? Danny, I feel as bad about this as you do, he said. But the truth is, you can't prove any of this because it's not true. No one here knew anything about what happened between Brad and Karen. And now that we know about them, I'm going to take action. You want them to suffer, right? I can't break the law, but I'm going to make sure they feel pain for what they did to you and to us. I'm going to fire Bradley immediately, with no severance, no reference, and since his 401k is not full contribution, he will walk away with no company contributions to his account. I will also be filing a complaint with the Bar Ethics Commission. With this on his record, he will have a hard time finding employment with a reputable firm. I'm also going to demote Karen back to the stenographer pool, he said. But I won't do this until your divorce is settled in court. For now, I'm going to give her 2 weeks' leave without pay to make it look convincing, he said. And a report will be compiled in her workbook. All you give her is a light punishment, I said loudly. No, Danny, he said, smiling. Everything I do is completely legal and in your best interests. If I fire Karen, you will have to pay her more child support. If I wait until this is over, and she is demoted, or until her annual review, it will not affect your divorce agreement. I nodded my head. I didn't like the idea of Karen being homeless or helpless, but she deserved to suffer at least a little for what she did. Filling out the stack of papers took longer than I thought. It was early afternoon when I left the building. As soon as I got into my Mustang and fastened my seatbelt, someone knocked on my window. I looked up and saw one of the guards. I rolled down the window. "Hey, Danny, sorry for stopping you there," he said. "This is our job, but man, now I understand how you felt. I wish I had done the same when I caught my ex. Here." He handed me a piece of paper. "If you get there now, it might be worth it," he said with a wink. He gave me the name and address of the hospital where Brad was taken for treatment. I decided to pop in and see how Brad was doing. I walked up to the front desk and called Brad's name. The woman didn't want to give me any information about him. "Are you a friend or relative?" she asked. "You don't look like him or anyone in his family. I can't give information to my friends." "I came from the law firm he works for," I said. "If you don't need me to talk to him about his injuries, that's fine with me. The guy is still an asshole. I don't think we should pay for his treatment after what he did." I didn't actually lie. I never said I worked for a law firm. I never said that I was a lawyer. I said I came from there. I also never said I could authorize his payments. I just said I don't think they should pay for his treatment. But it worked. Her mouth opened in surprise. "Sorry, sir. I didn't know who you were. He's in room 213, she said. What exactly did he do to get brought here? I need the patient's history for my records, and no one told us anything." "Can we keep this between us?" I said. She nodded quickly and looked around to make sure no one was listening. "This scoundrel slept with a married woman. He destroyed 2 families, including his own. The woman's husband came into the office and beat Brad right there. There will be divorces because of this, and it will get messy." Her eyes became as big as saucers, and for some reason she began to smile. "What a scoundrel," she said. "His wife is with him. She's such a sweet lady. She showed me pictures of their kids." "Remember, this will remain between us," I said. She nodded, and as soon as I walked away from her, she grabbed the phone. I knew her type. Before I get to the 2nd floor, every nurse there will already know what bad old Bradley did to get what he deserved. As I approached Brad's room, an important-looking woman handed me a piece of paper to sign. "Here is your form HR 107J, she said, as if I knew what it was. "We've already had him sign a copy authorizing us to discuss his injuries and treatment with you." "I need to hear it from him," I said. "Of course," she said, "but you know patients don't really understand the cost, so I'll just tell you. He has a big gash on his head that we had to stitch up. When he gets old and his hair starts to fall out, he may need plastic surgery to make it less noticeable and... We won't pay for plastic surgery, I said sharply. If it happens later, he may not be in our company, so... I thought so, she said, crossing something off her list. How did he get this wound? The guy hit him over the head with the phone, I said. She laughed. He has a mild concussion and tinnitus, she said. Then she looked at me. Tinnitus is a ringing in the ears. Yeah, I've heard that a couple of times, I said. It's pretty funny. A guy hit him over the head with a phone and now he can listen to the ringtone all day long. He has several broken ribs, a broken nose, a split lip, and 2 badly bruised testicles, she continued. He'll probably be here for a couple of weeks. Her voice trailed off as she saw me shake my head. We won't pay for a long hospital stay, I said. None of these injuries are life-threatening. Dress him, give him further care instructions, and send him home. What about his ribs and the concussion? She asked. He has a wife. Let her watch him. If anything suspicious happens, she can call an ambulance. Welcome to the world of healthcare reform, I said. I walked into the room and saw Brad. There were several people in the room, including a short, stocky woman with dark hair who looked extremely intelligent and elegant. The nurse asked everyone to leave the room when I entered. I walked over to Brad's bed and his pulse immediately increased. Calm down, Brad, I said in a tone that only he could hear. I came to apologize. I was upset. I let my emotions control me and lost control. I promise you that I will never touch you again. I hope you understand that I loved Karen. Losing her kills me, but it's still no excuse for what I did. I hope you and her will be happy, and after my divorce you will never hear from me again. His pulse increased greatly this time. Even though his face was numb, he began to try to speak. No, he mumbled. It was just sex. I don't want her. I don't need a divorce. Please wait. Get well soon, buddy, I said loudly, patting him several times on his broken ribs. He raised his legs up and screamed in pain as I left the room. I heard you're from a law firm, the concerned woman said. I looked down and met those deep eyes. How did this happen to my husband? She asked. Was it a mistaken identity? I thought it was someone he won a lot of money with in court. You need more security, she said. Before this, I always wondered why there were so many big guards around, but now Mrs. Martin, I said slowly. Call me Joyce, she said. I gently took her hand and led her to a small waiting room off the hallway. Joyce, what happened to Brad was my fault. I came to apologize to him, I said. How could this be your fault? Brad said some crazy person broke into the office and attacked him. She smiled. You can't be everywhere and protect everyone. Joyce, I don't work for a law firm, I said. I'm the crazy one. She abruptly pulled her hand away from me and looked at me. You seem more hurt than crazy, she finally said. Why did you attack my husband? I think I would attack anyone who slept with my wife, I said. Or at least that's what I thought until now. That's no longer the case, so I came to apologize to Brad. Her eyes became hard as granite. Wait a minute, she hissed. Are you serious? This isn't some kind of joke? You saw your husband? I said. Does this sound like a joke? You should have killed him, she blurted out. No, I'm glad you didn't do it. I'll kill him myself. Who is your wife? Her name is Karen Boone, I began. Karen Boone, she screamed. Isn't that the older woman with the huge saggy breasts? Did he sleep with her? I nodded. That idiot. He was always staring at her. I hope it was worth it. The next time he sees his children, it will be at his own funeral, and he will look at them through the sides of his coffin. Tears rolled down her face. Is there a way to contact you? She asked. Yeah, just call the law firm, I said. Lauren is handling my divorce. She stood up and returned to Brad's room. A few seconds later, I heard screams from the room. I don't know what she did to him, but looking around, not a single nurse rushed into the room. Apparently, the story of what Brad had done had spread, and no one was rushing to help him. I stood there in shock. I think my daughter was trying to talk to me, but it just wasn't getting through to me. It was difficult for me to wrap my head around the fact that my husband had a girlfriend. I mean, I'm his girlfriend. I'm his only friend. What was even more puzzling was that she invited me and not Danny, and somehow she got my grandchildren to call her Grandma. I looked at her. Who the hell did she think she was cheating on? She had this wet blonde hair, and I must admit she was beautiful. But I was also beautiful at her age. Her figure was probably nothing, or at least not as good as mine. Suddenly, everything fell into place. I almost didn't recognize it. I was still in control of the situation. And that was the problem from her point of view. She was in the same situation as some of the girls Brad had dated before he got back with Joyce. Some of these girls really tried to replace Joyce in his heart and his bed, but they all failed. Those who were most serious about him always tried to integrate into his life. That's what this woman was trying to do, and that's why she invited me here. She wanted to give Danny a chance to compare both of us. She was going to lose. Debbie was finally able to take me to her and introduce me. I immediately hated this bitch. Her skin was so damn smooth. She had a few wrinkles at the corners of her eyes, but they even looked good on her. And judging by her eyebrows and the fluffy hair on her arms, she was a natural blonde. But more importantly, her breasts weren't even average size, let alone in my league. She spoke to me. Why the hell was she talking to me? This fake cute number will never work with me. Before I could respond, my grandchildren, Tony and Helen, ran up to us, followed by two other children about the same age. "Grandma, we want to go boating," Helen said, acting as spokesperson. "I'll make your grandfather take you as soon as he finishes showing your dad his new car," she said. I have to admit that I was jealous. "How about lunch while you wait?" she suggested. All four children began to scream joyfully. She walked out onto the ward, and four children followed her. "Okay, let's get the party started," Debbie said. "While the men are busy, I'll take care of the grill. What are we going to cook for dinner?" "I stopped and bought them McDonald's when you texted me that you'd be there soon," Selena said. The children screamed even louder. I have to admit, this bitch knew how to treat children. She basically stole my grandchildren from me. They didn't even notice my presence when she was around. "Mom, why don't you come out on deck and join me while I fire up the grill?" Debbie suggested. "You could use some sun." It was a great idea. When Danny comes out of the garage, he should see me. I went into the house to change clothes. I was amazed again. While the changes on the outside of the house surprised me, the interior left me speechless. During the time I was married to him, Danny and I used the lake house as a place to hang out once or twice a summer. There was minimal furniture and very few amenities. It was something like a refuge. Looking back now, I almost didn't recognize him. It was home in every sense of the word. The inside of the house has been renovated and repainted. There was a fireplace in the living room that I didn't even know existed. The kitchen had a full set of household appliances, beautiful dishes and pots. There was a small table in the corner of the breakfast room, and I could imagine us sitting there, bundled up, looking out the window at the snow in winter. There was a huge dining set. The sideboard contained a large collection of beautiful glasses and plates. I looked into the office. We used to store camping stuff there. The entire room was turned into some kind of multimedia cocoon. A huge TV dominated one of the walls. Opposite him were 4 leather recliner chairs. There was a cozy, overflowing sofa along one wall and a leather love seat along the other. I imagined Danny and I lying on this couch, watching a very romantic movie, and then turning it off halfway through to make love. I could also imagine myself carrying plate after plate of wings and pizza behind him while he and his friends watched the Super Bowl on that huge TV. Then I noticed toys and video game controllers scattered around the room. There were speakers placed around the room, and along one side there was an area where the carpet ended and the beautiful wood flooring began, mimicking the hardwood flooring that was throughout the house. I imagined that someone liked to dance. Once again, I could imagine soft music playing from those speakers as Danny and I glided lazily, lost in each other's arms. All these changes to the house took time. This wasn't done overnight. I slowly walked up the stairs and looked into the bedrooms. And they were fully furnished too. Even the bathrooms were cozy and well-appointed. "Mom, are you okay?" asked Debbie. I stopped on the stairs, heading back down. She found me when I was deep in thought. I was looking for a place to change into a swimsuit, I said. The place has changed, hasn't it? She asked. If I hadn't seen her do it, I probably wouldn't have believed it. She turned this old shack into something special, didn't she? How about you change in our room? It's the last one on the left. I'll meet you on the terrace. Okay, I'm just lost, I said. Mom, Selena won't mind if you look around. She's all about family and comfort. That's what she's done with this place. She wants everyone to feel comfortable. She always tells me to enjoy this place because in a very short time it will belong to me and the children. I didn't understand this at all. Was she trying to bribe my daughter with the opportunity to have her father's lake house? The more I heard, the less I liked her. She was obviously much worse than the women Brad had dated. Then I realized that my mission was to free my husband from her, and I had to give it my all. I went into the bedroom. I changed into a swimsuit, which I called the slutty swimsuit. I put my robe on over it and went down the stairs. I sat on a nice lounge chair and watched my daughter potter around the grill. I heard the sound of a powerful engine starting and saw Danny driving his new Mustang out of the garage. He got out of the car and started grabbing buckets and a hose, while Greg was talking to him. Greg held a bottle of beer in one hand and scratched his head with the other. Selena stopped doing anything that made the 4 children giggle. "Darling," she called. My damn husband looked at her and walked over. He still had the microfiber cloth in his hand. "Danny, you washed the car yesterday," she said. He pouted. "Greg wants to see how I make my rims so shiny," he said. "Give him a bottle of turtle wax chrome and tell him how you do it," she said. "Your kids and grandkids want to go boating." His children! What the hell is going on here? Danny's only child is now an adult, and Debbie has children of her own. Greg came over and Danny told him they were going on a boat and he could go. I stood up and threw off my robe and all hell broke loose. Greg almost choked on his beer. This made me realize that my breasts were still capable of attracting attention to me. I looked at Danny and smiled. His reaction was not what I expected. He looked right through me as if he didn't even notice me. As I began to wonder what he was looking at, Debbie angrily grabbed my arm and tried to shield me. "Mom, where do you think you are?" she screamed. "The children are here. Do you really want your own grandchildren to look at your wrinkled old ass? This suit shows off your entire ass, and most of your front, too. Why do you—" She dragged me into the house and into privacy. I just wanted you, Father, to notice me. He always loved my body, and when we were together, I always wore things like that for him. I just thought that— You just thought you were going to show my husband your giant saggy tits," she hissed. "To be honest, I was only thinking about your father," I said. "If you had thought about my father 3 years ago, you would still be married," she spat angrily. "But I never had a chance to talk to him after that," I whined. "I never had the chance to apologize or ask him to forgive me. I never had the chance to save us. And now this evil woman is trying to take over his life and destroy our family. She invited you here, Mom. She's also my best friend and the best thing that's happened to Dad in a long time. She makes him happy. She asked you to come here because—" she began. "Because she's trying to steal your father from me," I hissed. "That's why I had to pull out the big guns, honey. She's younger than me and—" "Mom, Selena looks young and she had kids later, but you're both about the same age," she said. I was a little shocked to hear this. She looked much younger. "I'm not going to give up your father without a fight, Debbie," I hissed. "I let him down once. I betrayed him. But I will fight for my chance with everything I have, including my body." "Mom, there is no struggle," she laughed. "Don't I know that?" I smiled back at her. Compared to me, she has almost a flat chest. That's why she wears this cover-up. "Mom, there are no quarrels here because Selena and Dad have been married for a year. And her body? I don't think you can change Dad's mind with a dirty swimsuit." "Married?" I gasped. "But no one told me anything and—" "Mom, you're divorced," she said. "You offended him very much. Until recently, the mere mention of your name drove him crazy. Selena started working on it. She thinks this is so he can truly heal. He needs to experience this with you. Maybe he will never forgive. He'll definitely never forget it, but it would be nice if the two of you could go to the same places from time to time and act politely. So get dressed." I returned to the bedroom and changed into the most modest swimsuit I had brought with me. I didn't regret doing it. I was only sorry that I missed the opportunity. Danny barely glanced at me. I wanted to be able to get right in his face so he could get the full effect of my costume. When I returned outside, Danny and Greg were at the lake with the kids. My daughter relaxed in a lounge chair while Selena laid out plates and brought out bags of chips and snacks. My daughter was wearing a very cute swimsuit. It was comfortable and showed off her beautiful figure, but kept it modest. Before she noticed me standing in the doorway, she motioned for Selena to join her. I stood and watched them for a while. They talked about children, their men, home, and even clothes. They were clearly comfortable with each other. This kind of intimacy takes time to develop, which again made me wonder how the hell this woman met and married my husband without me hearing about it. What bothered me the most was that my own daughter was keeping me away. I've been thinking about this for a while. I'll have to ask her about that someday. Soon, Danny, Greg, and the 4 children returned to the house. The men sat down and took over the grill, continuing to talk about Danny's car. 2 boys ran past me, grabbing small bags of chips and cans of soda. They were clearly heading towards a lair and a gaming system connected to a huge TV. The moment I watched them disappear into the room, I turned around and saw Selena walking back into the house. Our eyes met and she smiled. "I liked your suit," she said. "I wish I was brave enough to wear something like that." Then she giggled like a schoolgirl. "Of course Danny would kick my ass if I wore something like that in front of everyone. And of course I don't have the equipment to wear a top like that," she laughed. I wanted to hate her. She was so sweet, but at the same time, so confident. Although she didn't pay attention to the size of her breasts, it was clear that she was comfortable in her skin. She liked the person she was. It was as if she had no regrets in her life, or that she had come to terms with them. The birch tree was so happy that it began to shine. Up close, I saw that Debbie hadn't lied. Selena was much older than she looked, but she moved like a much younger woman. I always thought that my main competitors were young and fresh women, but Selena was clearly as attractive as I was, and her attractiveness was not the result of some lucky genetic gift. "When you're done looking around the house, come out," she said. "It will take some time, but eventually you will get used to us. I want it." Why the hell was she so damn friendly? It was insulting. She had to know why I came. She must have known what I wanted. Apparently, she was so confident in her power over my husband that she did not consider me a threat. It only made me hate her even more. I saw Danny and Greg walk through the living room and return to the deck. I couldn't help but overhear their conversation. "Dad, why do you have your traffic ticket framed and hanging on the wall?" asked Greg. Danny frowned. "I've never told this story to anyone," Danny began. "It's pretty painful, but maybe if I get it out, I'll feel better." They sat down and Selena appeared out of nowhere to give them both a drink. "This has happened before," Danny began. "When I was married to Debbie's mom. God, I loved this woman then. Anyway, I was out of town on business. I hated being away from her because I never wanted to be separated from her. So I came back early. I finished my errands, and instead of spending the night at a hotel, I caught a red-eye flight and got home around 2 a.m. Karen was already asleep, so I got into bed with her. I hugged her and went to bed. The next morning, as soon as we woke up, we got down to business. She let me know how much she missed me. I had to go to the office that morning, so as much as I wanted to stay in bed with her, I got up. I took a shower, got dressed, and went downstairs. While I was there, I noticed the mail sitting on the counter as usual. One of the letters was from the traffic court. I opened it because I didn't remember getting any traffic tickets. It turned out not. They've been trialing new traffic cameras that show when you run a red light in the city center. The tickets have a small photo of the car and the red light. They also show the time and date when the incident occurred. So sometimes you may think you got away with a light violation and still get a ticket. The ticket clearly showed my Mustang. Some guy I didn't recognize was not only driving my car, but the look on his face was ecstatic. At first, I wondered why a guy I didn't know was driving my car. Then I wondered why he looked so damn happy running the red light. Then I noticed a second person in the car. It was your mother-in-law, and her head was lying on the guy's lap. The look on Greg's face was pure shock. There was a kind of wry expression on Danny's face. "So this ticket is here because it changed my life," Danny said. "It's a ticket to travel, and Karen pulled it out of our marriage." I ran back up the stairs, crying my eyes out. I don't know if they saw me or not. I always wondered how Danny caught me. I often thought he hired a private investigator or something, but it was pure bad luck. Brad just wanted us to try some things that Joyce wouldn't do. This was one of his fantasies. This fantasy ended my marriage and ruined Brad's career. The irony was that Danny seemed to have figured out that I was having a long-term affair with Brad. Nothing could be further from the truth. All this lasted only a few weeks. It was neither exciting nor exciting. Perhaps my guilt for doing it kept me from enjoying it. And sex? Somehow it didn't bring pleasure. There was no emotional connection. I deserved better. I realized that I already had the best. Danny loved me. Brad just wanted to seduce me and feel my breasts. So I decided to end it. Brad and I met for the last time. We only had sex twice. We went downtown to a cheap motel and had sex once. On the way there, I fulfilled his fantasy. I didn't love Brad. In fact, we barely knew each other at the time. He simply said the right things at a time when I was most vulnerable. Now, understanding why I was divorced and unhappy, I was angry. It just wasn't fair. I have been a good wife for over 20 years. How can a few bad decisions in a few short weeks outweigh all that? Suddenly, my anger increased. I went down the stairs. I heard the boys in the office laughing and playing some kind of video game. Looks like they were shooting at aliens or something. I walked out onto the terrace just in time to see Selena and my traitorous daughter soaking up the sun. Selena stood up and took off her covers to sunbathe. Her body was incredible. I underestimated her again. Her breasts weren't as big as mine, but they were very firm and well-formed. I knew that if she took off her clothes, they wouldn't sag and fall to her waist. Her waist was small, and her legs and butt would make me look like a boy. Her hips flared outwards and were rounded in a way that would drive most men crazy. I was sure that my husband loved this body. When I looked across the terrace, I already saw it. Danny's gaze settled on this body the same way he had once looked at me. I knew that it looked good. It was a combination of pride mixed with admiration and desire. It was again the same way he once looked at me. And I saw something else. This bitch loved it. She knew he was looking at her and she liked it. She stretched her ass out a little. She tensed those legs and posed. She leaned right towards him. It was a subtle movement that allowed him to get a better look at her breasts. The anger that had been building up inside me suddenly doubled. At that moment, I was like a fly caught in a spider's web. That damn bitch, with her polite words and obviously fake sweetness, tricked me into underestimating her while she was doing exactly what I planned to do to her. She brought me here to what was now her home and showed my husband how superior she was to me. And she covered his eyes. He ate it. No one was as nice as she pretended to be. I was so angry that I saw red everywhere. I needed a way to show Danny that Selena isn't as special as she pretends to be. I needed a plan, so I headed into the house. I decided that I would find a place where I could sit and think. I wanted to look at this damn ticket that ruined my life. When I entered the living room, I was angry. I don't think I've ever been so angry in my life. My granddaughter and another little girl were playing with dolls in the living room. When I looked at the ticket, they came up to me. I took the framed ticket off the wall. The photograph on it was amazingly clear. I could even see Brad's expression. When I looked even closer, the back of my head became clearly visible. Danny was absolutely right. It was a ticket to travel. I used this ticket immediately after getting married. Another thing that made me angry was the way Danny handled everything. He never gave me a chance to explain. He never gave me any chance to fix the situation or try to save our marriage. He just threw me away like yesterday's trash, and the way he had just shown up with a new woman and family was almost too convenient. It felt like he was planning to leave me all along. Or maybe Danny knew Selena before he caught me. Maybe he was just waiting for me to screw up so he could replace me. And Selena has just taken my place not only in Danny's life and his bed, but in the life of my daughter and her family. It was too convenient. I was so angry that I almost didn't hear my granddaughter Helen. "Old Grandma, what are you doing?" she asked. Hearing her call me old grandma made me even angrier. I knew she meant old, not in terms of age, but in terms of not being the newest or the best. I was a substitute grandmother. I was a small grandmother. My anger increased even more. "That's my daddy's ticket," said another little girl. "I know children. The girl didn't mean anything by it. I raised my daughter, but I just lost it." "He's not really your father," I said. "He only has one daughter. Mother Helen, you're just a stepdaughter. You're only here because he's having sex with your mom." Even as I said those words, I realized how cruel I had just been. But it was too late to bring them back. I guess I just wanted to hurt someone the same way I was hurt, and I chose a child to focus my rage on. The little girl burst into tears. She was crying bitterly. Heartbreaking sobs burst from the depths of her soul, and she began to run away from me. When I said this, I didn't realize that my daughter Debbie was right next to me and heard the entire conversation. What made it even worse was that Danny and Greg were following her. I don't think Danny heard me, but Debbie did. I don't think I've ever seen this level of anger in anyone's eyes before. Debbie was angrier than Danny when he found the ticket. The little girl ran straight to Danny. He picked her up and hugged her completely, she cried. "What happened, Angel?" he asked. She buried her face in his shoulder and was still sobbing uncontrollably. "Karen told her you're not her father," Debbie spat. My own daughter got so angry at me that she called me by name. By then, Selena had already reached there. She reached out to the little girl, who refused to leave Danny's side. "Selena, I told you this wouldn't work," Danny said. Then he turned to me. I had a feeling that if the girl had not been in his arms, he could have hit me. "Get out of my house," he hissed, "and don't come back again. I don't want to see you for the rest of my life." He turned to leave, carrying and rocking the girl. "Danny, I'm sorry," I sobbed. I was angry. "For what?" he snorted. "Ever since you came here, no one has been anything but nice to you. Is that what makes you angry? You can't stand it when people try to be nice to you. You got so angry that you tried to hurt a 6-year-old girl." "But," I started. "No buts," he said mockingly. "Karen, get out of here while you can still walk." "I don't have a car," I said. "I came with Greg and Debbie. I swear that I'll take her back and then come back here," Debbie said. I quickly went to the front of the house. I tried to apologize again, but no one listened to me. Selena and Danny consoled the girl, telling her to ignore the crazy old woman. Greg just looked at me and shook his head. I heard him whisper to Debbie that he didn't want their children around me either. The first half hour of the 90-minute car ride was completely silent. "Mom, how could you do this?" Debbie suddenly asked. "I was angry," I said. "I was hurt. This bitch only brought me here to humiliate me in front of my husband." "Mom, Selena was trying to be nice," Debbie said sharply. "What reason does she have for trying to humiliate you? She wants your father," I hissed. "Mom, Selena loves Dad," she said. "And by the way, she got it. They've been married for a year. She tried to make everyone happy by bringing the family back together. I feel stupid because she did it mostly for me. Every time we all got together, I always said, 'It's a pity that Mom isn't here to share this with us.'" "You don't know this woman," I said. "She couldn't wait to get her hands on your dad." "Mom, shut up," she hissed. "You weren't there. Dad was depressed and angry for a long time after your divorce. He met Selena a little over a year after your divorce. They dated for another year before getting married. She picked up the pieces of Dad after what you did to him." "Debbie, I made a mistake," I said. "I was vain. I was vulnerable. I felt old and unattractive. For most of my life, men have always wanted me. But when I started getting older, all the men in my office started ignoring me. I think there are more beautiful women there. I guess I just went crazy when Brad started complimenting me and telling me all the things he wanted to do to me. And to be honest, your father was the only man I ever slept with. So my curiosity and my vanity just got to me. But your father is also to blame for this. We should never have gotten divorced. He just threw me away like I didn't matter. He is my husband, not my owner. This is not the 18th century. Mom, how would you feel if Dad was making a fool of you? She asked. Actually, we already know, don't we? Look how angry you are right now, and he's spending time with the woman he's legally married to. You don't like it, do you? Face it, Mom. You screwed up. You have no one to blame but yourself. Dad sticks to the old school. He takes his marriage vows seriously. And as for the 18th century, its values are returning. As for Dad, he owns Selena, and she owns him too. And he legally adopted her children, so this little girl is his daughter. All you did was make sure that you would always be a part of our family. Not only is Daddy never going to talk to you again, but my husband doesn't want you around our kids. You're kidding, right? I whined. I'm their grandmother. So is Selena, she said. Mom, for a while I've been thinking that maybe you and I could have lunch together from time to time. I think you're kind of depressed about losing your dad. Wait a bit. I'm sure Greg will eventually agree to let you see the kids again. But as far as Dad is concerned, I think you've burned your bridges. He loves these children. And you need to take a serious look at things. You lost your dad because of what you decided to do. He loved you. He married you. You cheated on him. You yourself caused the divorce. This is no one's fault but yours, Mom. Nonsense, I said. As soon as your father found out that I was not perfect, he abandoned me like a hot stone. I am human. We all make mistakes, including your perfect father and that perfect bitch he married. What is he going to do when he finds out that she's not perfect either? Mom, Dad doesn't need a perfect wife, and he doesn't want to have a perfect wife. Selena makes mistakes all the time. About a month ago, she flooded the house. Last year, she crashed her car. She accidentally hit a pole in reverse. It was a complete loss. All Dad did was hug her and tell her how glad he was that she wasn't hurt. Dad doesn't need a perfect woman as his wife. He just needs a faithful woman. He just wants a woman he can trust, and that wasn't what you were. I got out of the car and Debbie drove away. I felt terrible. I realized that everything Debbie said was true. I destroyed my own marriage, and now I've ruined my chance to be a part of the lives of the people I care about. Then I realized, or at least it seemed to me, that my life had sunk as low as it could be. I was wrong. I spent Sunday in deep depression. I drank way more alcohol than I should have. When Monday morning came, I could barely get out of bed. What made it worse was that I could barely muster enough energy to pretend to care vaguely. Brad has been trying to get me to talk about this all morning. I refused to tell him how terrible my weekend had been or what stupid things I had done. Brad, during lunch, let's just check into a motel room and spend the day there, I said. I haven't had sex since the last time I did it with Danny. Brad looked at me strangely. Karen, you know Joyce blamed you for what happened between us, right? He asked. And even though your life is ruined, she didn't want me to hire you. She made me make a promise to her. If you ever try to start with me again, Karen, I have no choice. You are fired. My family moved without me. I became even more depressed and had to go to therapy. It took some time, but I finally realized that I had to take responsibility for the loss of my husband and family. In the end, I had to return to my mother. I did this partly to take care of her after my father died, and partly because I couldn't find another job. It's ironic. I once had a perfect life. I threw it all away for a few bales of hay. Such chances come only once in a lifetime. I dated occasionally and had meaningless sex a few times a year when I could stand it. I've never met another man who cared about me the way Danny did. I think the modern era is full of people who put themselves first. Most of the guys I dated weren't looking for any kind of relationship. They just wanted sex. Danny and Selena lived happily ever after. I was never allowed to spend time with them again. Selena was able to convince Danny to let me into their lives that time, but after I hurt their daughter, he will never forgive me. It seems that every year they became more and more in love, and I became more and more unhappy. I believe Debbie did try to make the relationship work, but Danny wouldn't budge. Debbie would send me photos after birthdays and holidays or weekends at the lake. They all looked so happy. And in almost every photo, Danny was holding Selena or looking into her eyes the same way he once looked at me. Things didn't work out with Brad either. It turned out that Joyce, like Danny, was too hurt to forgive him. She kept him at a distance for a couple more years, collecting alimony, forcing him to fix things in the house, and generally do whatever she wanted. As I thought, their communication became more frequent, but then gradually faded away. One day she told him that she was going to marry another man. She needed someone in her life who she could trust. Once a cheater, always a cheater was her philosophy. I think it was especially cruel of her to give him all this hope, only to crush his dreams once she had had her fill of him. She even invited him to her wedding so he could watch her walk down the aisle with another man. Brad couldn't handle it. He sank into depression until he finally threw himself under the bus, ending his suffering. Brad and I were not friendly in the period leading up to his death. In fact, we never spoke to each other again after I proposed to him and he fired me. Now I'm in my 60s, and I still regret what I lost. My daughter Debbie calls me from time to time. She keeps me up to date with my grandchildren and my ex. This is the closest contact I have currently. And some days when I sit alone in my apartment, I think about the old times and wish with all my heart that I didn't throw everything away. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.